Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome into Morning in the Word. Glad that you've joined us today. Today is September 8th. It is Tuesday morning, at least here, recovering from a night of storms. I hope you all are well and safe, and starting a work week after what I hope was a restful and enjoyable Labor Day holiday for you and yours. Today we're in Matthew chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7 is an enormously rich chapter. It is just, it is jam-packed with some of the most memorable teaching that Jesus gave. Some of the lines and the clever phrases that are so impactful, and the kinds of things that, truthfully, even people who are not believers are familiar with many of these kinds of illustrations. Very, very common that in our world, we'll hear people talk about building on a good foundation as an illustration. You'll hear people, refer to a tree that bears good fruit or some semblance of that kind of illustration. The golden rule is one of the best known teachings of Jesus. It's found here. Within the church, we have many sermons and lessons about the opening lines of this chapter and the difference between judging, as is mentioned in the first verse, and comparing that to identifying fruit, which is discussed later in the chapter as an important aspect of how we should interact with one another, and some things to be careful for, and some things to be aware of. But in any case, how do you begin to, in just 3 or 4 minutes, set up some kind of a structure to look at this particular chapter being so rich as it is? And so what I've decided to do is share this with you, that I think in some ways this chapter can be split up into 3 sections. In verses 1 through 12, you have Jesus teaching about interactions with other people. How it is that we on this little blue ball spinning through space are supposed to interact with one another. What are the ways in which we are supposed to gauge our behavior as it corresponds to other people? He's going to give us some very practical insights there, and then he's going to sum it up in a beautiful way. The whole section is summed up in a phrase that's just so powerful, and that's the golden rule. Just treat others the way you want to be treated. Let's just start there. All of these things can be summed up in that. And Jesus is just brilliant at the way that he can give detailed instruction and then wrap it up in such a concise and powerful way that's memorable. Second, verses 13 through 23, this is more about our inner life. This is more about those things that aren't seen by the world, the stuff that's happening beneath the surface, the things that are happening between us and God, the things that are occurring on a spiritual level, a soul level. And once again, Jesus plunges some very deep depths as he explores this topic. And yet he presents it in a very manageable and an easy way. He puts handles on it that we can really grab hold of. When he says, look, you guys understand this. You know that a good tree bears good fruit. You know that. If the tree is bearing good fruit, then it is a healthy tree. What he's saying is the stuff that you can't see is being revealed by the stuff that you can see. And so we have another beautiful illustration of deep teaching made simple and memorable. The third thing I would point to you is the final section, the story of the 2 foundations. And I'm always intrigued by Jesus's teachings that start with the word therefore. Therefore. In verse 24, we have Jesus saying, therefore. And then he gives this teaching about the man who built his house on the sand and the man who built his house on the rock. But anytime I see the word therefore, I remember what an old preacher used to say. If you see the word therefore, stop and ask what it's there for. And what it often is Jesus saying, everything that I've just told you is now epitomized in this. And so when I read the word therefore, followed by the story of the two foundations, it makes me think, what does the story of the two foundations tell me about interacting with others and and my inner life, my life in a spiritual sense? And the thing that they both, the first story and the second story, the first section and the second section, the way that they both combine in the story of the two foundations is this. The premise is about whether or not we're going to apply what we hear. Because you could be exposed to all the good teachings of Jesus that you can imagine. We can read it, we can learn it, we can even be able to recite it and explain it. But the bottom line is that none of this will do any good in our lives unless we actually put it into practice. And so Jesus caps off this wonderful teaching time by saying, y'all, this is going to mean nothing to you if you don't actually go and do it. And I think there's no better way for me to end this morning than to encourage us all to not only learn more, but to really analyze and evaluate. Are we putting into practice what we do know? I hope you have a wonderful time in this great chapter today, a wonderful day. Look forward to seeing you back in here tomorrow. God bless.